I don't know about you, but I always think ghost stories seem more believable when actual names are mentioned. And this one, recorded by famed ghost hunter Peter Underwood, is chock full of them. For starters, it takes place in Abbots Kerswell, sitting on the old Torquay Road. The house in question is also named George and Alla House, which by the 1960s had been turned into flats. In 1963, newlyweds John and Carol Durston bought a ground floor flat there. 10 days later, they learnt it was haunted. The couple heard shuffling sounds at night, as though someone plodded backwards and forwards up the corridor outside their flat. But when they went to investigate, there was nobody there. Not that it meant the footsteps disappeared, quite the opposite. To John's astonishment, they continued to hear them loud and clear. That autumn, and here's another very precise detail, a tacky ornament of a donkey began moving itself in the middle of the night. One evening, the lampshade began spinning and, try as John might, he couldn't get it to stop. I was determined not to give in, he told Peter Underwood, but the ghost had more patience and won. And what was this ghost he spoke of? A whitish cloud of mist in the shape of a fat fella, which would materialise as the room grew deathly cold. More hauntings, the bedroom cupboard shaking violently, the carpets rolling up at their edges, and another name, Reverend Gordon Langford, who was then the vicar of Abbots Kerswell. Gordon investigated the couple's claims and learnt there used to be a factory behind the house, one where, in 1925, when the company's books were being audited, a chap named Victor Judd hanged himself. Gordon reported back to Dr. Robert Mortimer, who was then the Bishop of Exeter, yet another definite name and proof this all happened. He sent one of his chaplains out, the Reverend Sir Patrick Ferguson Davy. Sir Patrick said, "I know there is a ghost here. I am sitting by the fireplace, the fire is lit, and yet I am stone cold from toe to waist." The bishop then decided to conduct an exorcism. You want further proof these events happened? They were reported in the press at the time, and I found a front page story in the Birmingham Daily Post of all newspapers, dated Thursday 14th of November 1963. In it, the Reverend Gordon Langford discusses the exorcism and the ghost, saying, "We actually sensed it when we went there to hold the special service. The room temperature suddenly dropped alarmingly, and we all shivered as though we were standing in an icy blast." Carol Durston herself is also quoted, albeit reluctantly, as she said, "It's been a terrible experience. One could sense something evil, and I don't want to talk about it." Gordon was more forthcoming. "On Monday last, I went back and celebrated Holy Communion at the house. Since last weekend, there has been a very different feeling about the place." All's well that ends well then? Apparently not, for the ghost returned shortly afterwards and began haunting a neighbouring flat. He also resumed troubling poor Mr. and Mrs. Durston. Perhaps unsurprisingly, they moved out of their new home shortly afterwards.